crime-infested, socialist experiment gone horribly wrong. Unemployment, corruption, load shedding. I'm staying here to fight for South Africa. Let's save South Africa. So let's talk about the State of the Nation address, the SONA, which happened the day before yesterday. And by the way, I didn't even watch it. I watched the recording because it's an annual festival of empty promises, delusion, political pantomime. You know, Cyril every year shuffles onto the stage, surrounded by a sea of clapping seals, cadres, and delivers a masterclass in pretending everything is just fine in South Africa. Tells us about his bold plans, his new dawn, and my personal favorite, his commitment to fighting corruption. I think he invented corruption. And every year, somehow, we pretend to believe it, or at least some people do. 40% of the voters and going down. I've had enough. Enough with the speeches, enough with the lies, enough with watching this country, this beautiful country, be hijacked, looted, and mismanaged by an ANC so corrupt they could teach the mafia a thing or two about organized crime. I watched the Joel Pollak interview instead of SONA, so I watched SONA afterwards, knowing lies and promises. But let's have a quick talk about the shining example of state capture, the Bosasa scandal. A story that's so outrageous, even Hollywood would reject the story for being unrealistic. And this isn't just another case of corruption. It's an ANC Olympic gold medal of corruption. So let's break it down for those of you who might not be familiar with the details, perhaps because you were trying to make a living, an honest living, while this country was being robbed blind by the ANC. Bosasa was a facilities management company, which is a fancy way of saying they got paid billions to do things the government should have done itself, but was too lazy, or more likely, incompetent to handle. Bosasa specialized in running prisons, providing security services, and apparently bribing every government official in sight. How did they secure these lucrative government contracts? They just bought off the right people. Bribery, fraud, and kickbacks became the Bosasa business model. Sound like the ANC? Not surprised. Lavish security upgrades for politicians' homes, because nothing says public service like free electric fencing for your ANC mansion. Cash payments in brown envelopes. If it works for FIFA, why not for the South African government? And for years, Bosasa operated in plain sight, under the Zuma and Ramaphosa governments, bribing its way into government contracts worth billions. Did anyone stop them? Of course not. In fact, some of our finest ANC officials were their biggest clients. State capture? No, my friends. This was state ownership. Ramaphosa, president of action, all words. Let's talk about him, our dear President Cyril, the man who promised us a new dawn, but ended up delivering load shedding 2.0, 30 to 40% unemployment, and more commissions of inquiry than actual solutions. To be fair, he did inherit a complete mess from Jacob Zuma, where he was vice president. But what has Ramaphosa actually done to fix South Africa? Cyril has held inquiries, he's given speeches, he's expressed deep concern, and he's promised to act. And then nothing, Cyril. Bosasa donated 500,000 Rand to his CR17 campaign, which of course was totally fine, nothing to see here. Just democracy in action, right? Cyril claims he didn't know. He didn't know about the Bosasa corruption. Oh, yes. The man running a R1 billion campaign for president had absolutely no idea where his money was coming from. That's totally believable. And so here we are, years later, still waiting for justice, still waiting for the prosecutions, still waiting for someone, anyone, to go to jail for state capture. But of course, in South Africa, accountability is just a word. Politicians, ANC politicians, throw around when they need votes. And what about the Zondo Commission? Remember that? Anything happened from that? And SONA itself is a scripted circus of lies. I can hear it now. We are committed to fighting corruption, which is now, Cyril, no one has been arrested. We will fix Eskom. Well, you know who has fixed Eskom? Mteto Nyati and Dan Marakane. But there's still a huge debt problem there. Unemployment remains a challenge. Well, just like government incompetence. And you, the ANC, created the unemployment. We are attracting investment. Yeah, right. You're chasing investment away, especially people like Gwere, where there's moronic mineral right acts. And the ANC will say all the right thing. They'll paint a vision of hope. They'll promise change. And then when the cameras are off and the journalists have left, they will go right back to business as usual, stealing, lying, and living off the taxpayer. What do we actually need to do to fix this country? It's pretty clear if it's ever going to happen. Real accountability. Prosecute corrupt politicians, all the ANC politicians. Not tomorrow, not next year. Now, read the Zondo Commission. No more commissions of inquiry. We've had enough of those to last a lifetime and they cost a fortune. We want less government and more business. Stop treating the private sector like the enemy. Entrepreneurs are the only reason we still have an economy. And cut the bureaucracy. We want less government, less laws. If it takes 18 months to build a business, to get a business license, but only 6 minutes to steal 500 million rand from a government contract, we know we've got a problem. And we need to protect our whistleblowers. The people exposing corruption are being assassinated, bullied, while the looters are getting promotions. Well done, ANC. And we've got to end the ANC's rule. To be honest, we're never going to progress until we kick the ANC completely out of power. They've had 30 years to make South Africa a better place, and all they've done is break it. Cyril announces he intends to have GDP growth at 3%, which is a long shot from where we are now, around 1%. And I think it's unattainable under the current policies. What we really need is 5 to 6% to get everyone out of unemployment. And I can do that in 12 months. Under Mbeki, we had 5% growth because investors believed in South Africa and trusted that ANC. But the Zuma and Ramaphosa ANC has broken that trust with the world and scared investors away, and are doing so by spending loans from the IMF and the World Bank. Wake up, Cyril. Wake up, South Africa, and smell the roses. The only way you can grow an economy is by improving investor confidence in South Africa for businesses and consumers alike. Every time you mention taking people's land, farms, and possessions away, you chase other investors away. Every time you rattle on about NHI, which is unaffordable, Aaron Moron Motsoaledi, it turns companies and investment away. And every time you ANC people cozy up to China, Russia, and the monstrous Iran, we turn the world and its capital away. You'll never get to 3% or anywhere near it. And you'll never improve the lives of ordinary South Africans because you, the ANC, just don't care. You do not care about South Africa. So, ladies and gentlemen and patriots, again, South Africa's at a crossroads. We can either continue on this path where corruption, incompetence, and economic collapse becomes the norm under ANC mismanagement, or we can stand up and demand change. No more excuses, no more waiting. The future of country is in our hands and should not be in the hands of politicians like the evil ANC. We need to put South Africa first for once. South Africa first.